2020 was such a hard year on all of us. A lot of bad things happened, but some good could come out of that, possibly. One of the things I noticed was there was an actual awakening in America, a realization that we do have a problem when it comes to race and equality and social justice. For that reason, I asked a few friends if they'd be willing to have a conversation with me about social injustice, economic equality, and race. So I asked them a few questions. Let's get started with Andy Murray, Chief Procurement Officer of Gilead Sciences. Andy, thanks for being here with me. So why do you feel economic equality for minority groups is important in this country, and how does supply diversity fit in?
First, Cecil, thank you very much for the chance to be here and respond to these very important questions. The wealth gap between America's richest and poorer families more than doubled from 1989 to 2016, according to Pew Research. The black-white income gap in the U.S. has persisted over time. Median black household income was 61% of median white household income in 2018. This is often due to a lack of opportunity and inclusion. I think one would have to be very tone deaf not to acknowledge that. One of Gilead's core values is inclusion. That expectation resonates with me personally, and we extend it to our suppliers. We are working to have our supply base reflect the diversity of our employees and our patients. Our procurement guidelines require we include diverse suppliers in our competitive bidding. And from that, Gilead benefits as well. We get the benefit of typically what is greater flexibility and responsiveness, where larger suppliers may not be as agile as our diverse suppliers. And it's been a very good and mutually beneficial approach for Gilead.
Wow, Andy, that was great. Tell me, why have you chosen to personally become a champion and an ally for diversity and equality?
Great question, Cecil. And there are a number of reasons. I'll tell you, working at Gilead, I've become aware of racial and social inequities more so than ever before, and particularly in the U.S. around healthcare. HIV and AIDS disproportionately affects Latinos, transgender women, African-American women, African-American gay and bisexual men. And due to stigma, poverty, lack of access to healthcare, this is a real crisis in America. Black and African Americans in this country have the highest rates of new HIV infections every year compared to other races. This needs to change. These communities need and deserve the same standard of care that others have. This extends to many areas of economic opportunity as well. For this to happen in a meaningful and sustainable way, guys like me, old white guys, need to get off and stay off the sidelines. We need to engage and give our sincere efforts to making a difference.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. That's powerful stuff, powerful stuff. So what is your message to non-minority people who may think that the current efforts in this country to move towards racial equality and economic justice may be misplaced or even reverse discrimination? What's your response to that?
Cecil, I say wake up. White privilege is real. A common saying is that non-minority folks are born on second base and grow up feeling like they've hit a double. In my case, being raised by a single mother, often we struggled quite a bit. So maybe I was born on first base. But if I'm honest, I was likely given more chances than many minorities would have received in those situations. Be aware of that, acknowledge that. We've got to be able to take a look in that mirror and be honest with ourselves. But when we do, we also need to be aware of something called unconscious biases. We all have them. At Gilead, people managers are trained to recognize these, and they're far more subtle than overt racism, but they can also be very damaging. We use an acronym for this called SEEDS, and it stands for Similarity, Expedience, Experience, Distance, and Safety. I'm just going to talk about one of them today, that's similarity. When hiring people, similarity bias is something we have to be extremely mindful of. It's easier to, unconsciously in many cases feel and relate to someone who looks like you've set yourself. That's a human nature thing to do. So what do we do to try to mitigate those biases? Well, for starters, we want to make sure that we have diverse panels when we interview people. I want to make sure it's not just non-minorities. We want to make sure that's representative of the Gilead uh, employee base. And I'm glad to say we've got a rich degree of diversity at Gilead. And as a result, I think we have a much stronger company and work product. So being careful about your unconscious biases is a way to do something to address what I think is just an inequality that is endemic in our society.
I have with me here today Phil Johnson, Senior Vice President with the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. Phil, thanks for being here today. Let's jump right into it. Why do you feel economic equality for minority groups is important in this country? And how does supply diversity fit in?
It's a great question, Cecil. Economic activity and economic equality, along with supplier diversity, really do fit well together. I've heard it characterized like this. I think you've heard it too, Cecil. We do better when we all do better. So when we actively lift up each other in the community, either economically or through participation, we all end up better. From a diverse supplier standpoint, from a supplier diversity standpoint, it results in better business outcomes. Every time, it's been proven time and time again that that's the case. It drives economic activity in our communities. And for someone like me who works for the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, as you know, we strive to be a community engaged bank. So it fits our mission and our modality perfectly to talk about economic equality as well as supplier diversity.
Thanks for that, Phil. I appreciate that. So why have you chosen to personally become a champion and an ally for diversity and equality?
You know, I've chosen to become a champion and ally for diversity and equality because of a couple of things. You and I have chatted about this. I consider it a moral obligation. It's also how I was raised. I had my father just ingrained in us the ideas of treating everyone honorably, fairly, and equitably. So it's really in my DNA. It's in my family's DNA. So it was a natural that this was something that was going to be hugely important to me. He talked about it as being the true measure of a person, how we treat one another in all elements of life, in all facets of life, whether it's economic activity or friends or social activity. You know, and with this San Francisco Fed, we really exemplify these attributes. You know that we've worked with you for many years at the WRMSDC, both me personally, a lot of my peers, and also not just in terms of building our own supplier diversity program to great benefit for us as good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. It makes good economic sense to do so. But again, as a community engaged bank, lifting up our community in ways that not just through our own economic contributions at the Federal Reserve, but also in supporting diverse suppliers, helping them grow, hosting conferences, and being part of the conversation. It all just fits together. So for me, it was a no-brainer. It was a natural concurrence, confluence of the way I was raised, the mission of my organization, and my true belief that it's the right thing to do.
Wow, Phil, thank you so much for that answer. I have to ask you to speak to your peers out there. What is your message for non-minority people who may think that current efforts to move towards economic justice and racial equality in this country may be misplaced or considered reverse discrimination? What do you say to that?
Yeah, so that's a really important question right now, and it's an important topic. You and I have had conversations around this, and my message to non-minorities who are thinking about this, I'd say two things. One, that the onus is on. I put the onus on the non-minority to have to open up this opportunity for this discussion, and being champions for that, and being brave about it. I found that that in conversations like many that I've had with you, Cecil, and others, that in doing so, there's more empathy, there's more understanding, There's more that I find that there's opportunities, there's gaps, blind spots that I didn't know that I had. And it's incredibly important and valuable for us to do that if we believe in lifting up the communities that we serve and the communities that we live in. These are tough conversations. They're a little, you get a little bit of, knot in the throat to start, but they become easy. And once you've had one, the next one becomes easier, and the next conversation becomes easier. And that applies to those that may think it's something about reverse discrimination. But again, I put the onus on the non-minority to have that in, as many of us are in a position of privilege. And so it's a safer place for us to come to and open up those doors. When I think about, me personally, as a privileged middle-aged white guy, it's just something that is, it's important for me to know that I'll never know another's experience. I've not have lived it, but these discussions allow me to know more about what another experience is like. Again, imbuing me with empathy, understanding, and opportunities to where I can fit into the puzzle to help improve things. And I bring it all the way back, Cecil, to where we started, is that I do better when we all do better, and we do better when we all do better.
I have with me here today Ken Gitlin, Senior Vice President with Robert Half. Ken, thanks for coming on. I have to ask you, why do you feel economic equality for minority groups is important in this country? And how does supplier diversity fit in?
Cecil, I think that it's absolutely critical that every element of our communities have a chance to equally participate in the success that hard work and entrepreneurism brings. And I believe that through supplier diversity, we create a window of opportunity for individuals to secure that opportunity, prosper, grow their businesses, and reinforce the strength of our entire community.
Thanks for that answer, Ken. I know a lot of our viewers might be wondering, why you? Why have you chosen to personally become a champion for diversity and equality?
Cecil, the reason I have chosen to do so is because I deeply believe that when given an opportunity, a fair, level landscape in which to compete, that minority-owned and women-owned businesses often show up and create new and better ways of solving problems and supplying services and products to large companies like the one that I'm associated with. However, in many cases, they don't know how to navigate those channels initially. They have to learn how to do that, and they need a little bit of assistance. And so because I believe that all aspects of our community need an open and honest chance to compete, those, responsibilities fall to me and my associates to help to create the open door, not to give them the deal. They'll have to earn that on their own, but to open the door so they can compete in a level playing field environment with larger companies.
Thanks, Ken. I really appreciate that answer. What is your message to non-minority people who may feel that the current efforts to move our country towards racial equality and economic justice may be misplaced or considered reverse discrimination?
Well, I don't agree that there is any reverse discrimination in allowing individuals to have a chance to compete for the business with larger companies that are part of the greater business community and cultural community that we call the United States. So in that particular situation, I believe strongly that it is the obligation of larger companies and larger company executives like myself to facilitate the opportunities for entrepreneurs, whether those entrepreneurs are from a minority ownership perspective, a women-owned perspective, another less fortunate group that may have more difficulty navigating in to sell us both services and products. I think it's our obligation to create that window of opportunity. We don't give them the business if they don't earn the business. They have to earn the business with quality products, service, deliverables, but we have to create an opportunity for them to compete.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. And I want to thank my friend for being so bold to have this conversation with me. Our world's not going to change unless you get involved. These are uncomfortable conversations, but that's the way we're going to solve these problems. So I urge you, keep on talking, get involved. And if you want to learn more about economic justice, look us up on WRMSDC.org, or you can search us #WRMSDC. Thanks for watching.